Ravi. After my failure to impress Mrs. Beam with my verdict math and then the tripping episode, I can hardly wait for the morning to be over. At lunch, I will sit with Dylan Samreen and the other boys and come up with a plan for how to put Bigfoot in his place. One time at Vidya Mandir, a boy named Hassan stole a pair of leather batting gloves from my sports bag. My friends and I caught up with him after school and pushed him into a corner until he cried like a baby and gave back the gloves. Please take out your social studies textbooks and open them to page 10, Mrs. Beam tells us. Who would like to read the first paragraph to the class? Dylan starts waving his hand in the air, but Mrs. Beam chooses a boy called Keith Campbell instead. Most Native Americans were forced to leave New Jersey during the 1700s, Keith reads. Descendants of New Jersey Native American people hid or... He stops before the next word. The word is assimilated, said Mrs. Beam. Class, please repeat after me. We all say it together. Assimilated. Can anyone tell me what that word means? Mrs. Beam asks. Mine is the only hand that goes up. Yes, Ravi, says Mrs. Beam. I start to stand up, but catch myself in time. I have been awarded another chance to impress Mrs. Beam, and I'm not going to give her any reason to find fault with me. Assimilate, to consume and incorporate nutrients into the body after digestion, I say confidently. Mrs. Beam smiles, but she has that pity look again. I'm sorry, Ravi, she says. I'm afraid I couldn't understand you. Because of your accent, you're going to need to speak more slowly in class if you want to be understood. My face burns. Is there nothing I can do right? But I refuse to give up. I swallow my pride and try again. Assimilate, I say, slowly swirling my tongue around the words to make them sound more American. To consume and incorporate nutrients into the body after digestion. Thank you, Ravi, Mrs. Beam says, but the pity look is still there. In this context, however, the word assimilate means to try to fit in. Don't feel bad. It was a very good guess. A guess? Is that what she thinks? My answer was correct. I am 100% certain of that. I have a photographic memory. I can still see the definition from my 4th grade science notebook clearly in my mind. Mrs. Beam asked Keith Campbell to continue his reading. Descendants of New Jersey Native American people hid or assimilated into white society. Very good, Keith, Mrs. Beam says when he has finished reading. Then she looks around the room. Who would like to read the next paragraph? How about you, Joe? Bigfoot practically falls out of his chair. No way, he blurts out. Excuse me, says Mrs. Beam. Her eyebrows are twitching like electrified caterpillars. Mrs. Arun would never have allowed students to speak to her that way. I wonder what Bigfoot's punishment will be. But just then the door opens and a woman with white hair like a mop sticks her head inside. I'm here for Joe, she says. I'll keep him for the rest of the afternoon if that's all right. That will be fine, says Mrs. Beam. Oh, and did you get my note about our new student? I think he could use a little help. Could this mop top be Miss Frost, I wonder? I did get your message. If you want, I can take him right now, says Mop Top. The two of us can get acquainted, and if it seems like a formal assessment is in order, we can deal with the paperwork later. What is she talking about? Ravi, says Mrs. Beam, go with Miss Frost and Joe, please. I look up at the clock. 11:25. What about lunch, I ask. You can eat with Joe and me, says Miss Frost. Do you buy school lunch or bring it from home? From home, I say softly. I don't want to eat my lunch in the resource room with Mop Top and Bigfoot. I want to go to the lunchroom with my friend. Ravi, says Miss Beam, Miss Frost is here to help you. Please take your things and go with her. Hurry up now. I want to, 1, tell her I don't need help. 2, show her that she is the one who doesn't know the meaning of assimilation. 3, insult her hairy caterpillar eyebrows. But here is what I do instead. 1, sigh loudly. 2, put my things in the backpack. And 3, go and get my tiffin box. Chapter 14, Joe. Talk about perfect timing. I could kiss Miss Frost. Well, not really, but I'm happy to see her. I'll keep Joe for the rest of the day, she says. Fine by me. Mrs. Beam asked Miss Frost to bring Ravi along too. He seems kind of mad at it. I was mad too when I first started going to see Miss Frost. I didn't like the way kids looked at me, and when she came to get me out of class. Now, I'm used to it. I like Miss Frost, and I like being in the resource room partly because it's quiet there, and partly because of the M&Ms. Peanut M&Ms come in red, green, yellow, brown, orange, and blue, and they all taste exactly the same. I walk down the hall next to Miss Frost. Ravi walks a few feet behind us and doesn't say a word. Here we are, Ravi, says Miss Frost when we get to her room. Miss Frost's voice sounds like a cartoon bird, chirpy and high. Her hair reminds me of those long strips of cloth they drag over your car when you go through the car wash. She holds the door open for us, but Ravi just stands there. Is something wrong, Ravi? Miss Frost asks. Ravi pushes up his glasses and rubs his nose. Then he puts his shoulders back and stands up really straight. My name is not Ravi, he says. It's pronounced Ravi. I'm not going to bother to tell you how to pronounce my surname because you'll never be able to say it right. Miss Frost looks surprised. Oh, I'm very sorry if I mispronounced your name, she says. I certainly didn't mean to offend you. I don't belong here, he says, pushing his glasses up again. I speak perfect English. I was at the top of my class in India. My IQ is 135. I don't need special help. I'm not like him. He points his finger at me. I've been coming to Miss Frost's room since kindergarten. She was the one who figured out I had APD. My mom cried when she heard. My dad just got mad. He thinks APD is made up. His doctors do that all the time to make money. Have a seat, Joe. I'll be right with you, Miss Frost tells me now. I sit down, dig a blue peanut M&M out of the bowl in the middle of the table, and start sucking on it. Ravi, I say it to myself a few times until it starts to feel natural. I bet I could learn how to say his last name too if I wanted to, but why should I bother? I have more important things to think about, like the fact that my dad called to say he's cutting his trip short and coming home early. I have a feeling it's because my mom told him about what happened in the cafeteria yesterday. Miss Frost takes Ravi over to the other side of the room to the listening lab. He sits down and puts on a pair of headphones, but his legs are jiggling around under the table, and I can tell he's still mad. For a minute I thought we could be friends, but now I know that's never, ever gonna happen. Whatever. After Miss Frost gives Ravi set up in the listening lab, she comes over and sits down beside me. Are you okay, Joe? She asks. I shrug and dig another blue peanut M&M out of the bowl. Blues are my favorite. Ravi was upset, she said. He's a long way from home and still adjusting. I'm sure he didn't mean to hurt your feelings. He didn't, I tell her. Everybody thinks I'm dumb. I'm used to it. Miss Frost looks sad. Did you know your mom stopped by to see me on her way to work this morning, Joe? She asked. I shake my head. Why can't my mother keep her nose out of my business? Can't we talk about something else, please? I say. Like what? Asks Miss Frost. I try to think of something that has nothing to do with my mom or her new job. Did you know that if you suck on a peanut M&M long enough and you're careful not to bite down, you can actually feel one of the layers dissolving in your mouth? Miss Frost smiles. Go on, she tells me. Most people probably think there are only 3 layers in a peanut M&M, but it's not true. There are 4. The first one is the hard color part of the outside. Next, there's a thin white layer. That's the part most people don't know about. Then comes the chocolate, and when that's gone, if you're done it right, you end up with a nice, smooth peanut sitting on the end of your tongue. Miss Frost is still smiling. That's a very interesting observation, Joe, she said. It's also called a sequence. Sequences are something Miss Frost and I have worked on together a lot. She says if I can think about things in order, first, next, then, and finally, I will help my brain stay organized. Pick your distractors, Miss Frost tells me. I get up and go over to the shelf filled with things like kitchen timers, wind-up toys, and music boxes. I choose an old Mickey Mouse alarm clock and battery-operated snow globe with Santa Claus wearing a Hawaiian shirt inside. As I carry them back to the table, I catch a whiff of something spicy. It must be Ravi's lunch. Ready? Miss Frost asks me. The alarm clock is ticking loudly. I set the snow globe on the table beside it and turn it on. A blizzard of glittering snowflakes swirl around the plastic Santa Claus. Ready, I say. She hands me a copy of Sports Illustrated. First, find a page with no pictures on it. Next, circle all the words that begin with the letter T, she tells me. Then, copy the T words out on a piece of paper. And finally, fold the paper in half and bring it to me. Got it? Tick, tick, tick. I tell my brain to ignore the sound of the clock and the swirling flakes in the snow globe and focus on what Miss Frost just said. Find a page with no pictures. Circle the words that begin with T, I say, repeating the instructions. Then what? She asks. The Santa in the snow globe is holding a sign that says, Hollywood, here I come. That gets me thinking about Evan and Ethan. I wonder how they're doing in California. That gets me thinking about the part in Bud Not Buddy where Bud tries to sneak onto a train with his best friend. Bugs, only he ends up getting left behind with some girl named Deja who wants to kiss him. I don't know what I'd do if some girl tried to kiss me. Probably bite her. Then what? Miss Frost asked again. Crud. I totally lost my train of thought. I hate when that happens. Focus, Joe, Miss Frost tells me. Tick, tick, tick. I close my eyes and try hard to remember the rest of the instructions she gave me a minute ago. Copy all the T words out and write them on a piece of paper. Fold it in half and give it to you. Way to go, Joe, Miss Frost says, putting her hand up to give me a high five. Miss Frost doesn't know what that high fives are corny. I look over at Ravi to see if he's watching, but luckily he's busy looking at the dictionary. He asks again if he could go back to class. I can't hear what they're saying, but I guess she gives in and decides to let go because he shoves his stuff in the backpack real fast and heads straight for the door. Fine by me. Miss Frost offers Ravi an M&M from the candy bowl, and even though there are plenty of other colors, wouldn't you know it? He reaches in and takes a blue one. What really ticks me off is that it's a double, 2 M&Ms stuck together. Those are rare. He doesn't say goodbye. He doesn't eat the M&M either. Just puts it in his pocket and heads for the door. Something's different about him. He's not mad anymore. He seems more sad. Not that I care how he feels. I'm glad he's leaving. Joe, says Miss Frost, I'll be back in a minute. Then we can get lunch. As soon as she's gone, I put down my pencil and dump the whole bowl of M&Ms out on the table. I go through them one by one looking for doubles, but there aren't any more. Doubles are rare, especially blue ones. I'm kicking myself. How could I have missed that?